Welcome to today's On This Day in Tudor History with me, Claire Ridgway. Now today I'm taking you back to July 1553, the month of 3 Tudor monarchs, a king and 2 queens. The boy king, 15-year-old King Edward VI, had died on the 6th of July 1553 and had named Lady Jane Grey, the daughter of his cousin Frances Grey, Duchess of Suffolk, as his heir. His half-sisters Mary and Elizabeth had been made illegitimate by Acts of Parliament during his father Henry VIII's reign, and although Henry VIII had added them back into the line of succession before he died, Edward did not view them as eligible claimants, writing in his device for the succession that the said Lady Mary, as also the said Lady Elizabeth, to all intents and purposes are and be clearly disabled to ask, claim or challenge the said imperial crown, as well as to any of his property, and pointing out that they were half-blood, whereas Lady Jane Grey was legitimate. If you listen to my talk from the 9th of July, you'll know that on that day in 1553, Jane was told that she was queen, and although she was distressed by news of Edward's death and didn't seek the crown, once she found out that it was what Edward wanted, she accepted the crown as her destiny, as God's plan for her. In the meantime, Edward's half-sister Mary wrote to the Privy Council stating that she was the rightful queen and demanding their allegiance. On the 10th of July, Jane was proclaimed Queen in London, and on this day in history, the 11th of July 1553, in Ipswich, Suffolk, Sir Thomas Cornwallis, Lord Thomas Wentworth and some other prominent Suffolk gentlemen declared for Queen Jane. According to contemporary Robert Wingfield of the prominent Suffolk Wingfield family, Cornwallis, who was Sheriff of Norfolk and Suffolk, and a man who'd served as steward in Edward VI's household before he was king, had received instructions from Lady Jane Grey's father-in-law and the leader of the late king's government, John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland. According to Northumberland, Cornwallis was to make public with all haste the news of the king's death and to proclaim Jane as the new queen in the counties. Cornwallis, Wentworth and the other important men gathered in Ipswich and earnestly discussed the perils of the situation and decided to follow the instructions and proclaim Jane as queen, which they did on the 11th of July, but not without murmurs of discontent and great indignation from the common people. Wingfield goes on to write of how, while they were still there, Mary's receiver, Thomas Polly, came to the marketplace on Mary's orders and proclaimed his mistress hereditary Queen of England. He then quickly left for fear that he and his men would get into trouble. However, his proclamation, which had been well received by the townsfolk, made Cornwallis think twice about his support for Jane's claim. According to Wingfield, he then set off for London to seek advice from the most illustrious men of the kingdom. And on the way, he met John Colby, a good friend who'd been in London and who reported that the people of London were very ill disposed to Northumberland and the great men of the realm for disinheriting Mary, and that everything there pointed to violence and an uprising. On hearing this, Cornwallis, accompanied by Colby, returned to Ipswich, and the following day, amid scenes of general enthusiasm, recanted his previous proclamation and proclaimed Mary as the true and undoubted heir to the throne. On the 19th of July 1553, Jane's short reign as queen was over, when Mary was proclaimed queen in London. Also on this day in Tudor history, the 11th of July 1533, Pope Clement VII had had enough of the misbehaving King Henry VIII. But how had this English king gone from being lauded as defender of the faith to now being threatened with excommunication? What had he done to upset the Pope? Well, you can find out in last year's video, and you can find a link to that in the description for this video. Thank you for joining me. You can subscribe by clicking round about there. You can hit the bell to be notified as these videos go live, and you can give me a like and leave me a comment. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.